on the subject matter of our will being multiple wills, and our conscious will just being one of them that sort of that feels about how other ones are thinking. Baume de Plume makes an interesting comment. And these other wills subjected to the intermediating will, if I have that right, are conscious similarly to us, the intermediating will? Do you equate consciousness with will or call it a result of all the wills within a thing? Interesting. That's an interesting question. It's like asking, is there another conscious person inside of you? You know, that it has consciousness of itself and feels a personal identity inside you. And I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it is as if there is another consciousness. I do believe that these other ideas in your mind act as if there's another consciousness. But it could really be one consciousness that's on a share time, you know, that all these other ideas, like, um, let's be more specific in one case. Okay, so the will to get food and hunger, is it conscious of itself? Can it think of itself as a way of thinking and modify itself? Well, yes, but through our consciousness. Now, the thing is, our consciousness sometimes does things really briefly. My belief is you think about something for just a split second, and then you don't remember that you've thought about it. And that was conscious at the moment, but you just don't remember. You don't remember it, but it was the conscious part of the computer, but you didn't put it in that short-term buffer, so it becomes unconscious. And so conscious behavior melds with unconscious by ignoring our own conscious decisions. So you consciously decide to do something and forget it a moment later, and no doubt in just a functional way, sometimes intentionally have this as a little gimmick we do to fool ourselves, we call it. But it really is consciousness, and if you don't want to be fooled, when you figure out you've been fooling yourself, you can catch yourself. So maybe there is one consciousness, and it's on this timeshare basis. So the feeling of hunger takes over the consciousness and works with the one consciousness. Now, another kind of an idea is, though, what if, for example, you have a memory of someone? That memory is in your brain. It's a program in your brain. Consciousness is just a program. Why couldn't there be two instantiations? I believe there probably could. Nothing's that centralized. The two halves of the brain are at least mirrors, so you should at least have two consciousnesses. Seriously. And it's quite possible, though, that that the consciousness is exactly this two awarenesses of the brain feeding together. So it is this, both of them spinning. That is the consciousness. That is the need for the consciousness to have a center that keeps in touch with all the activity on both halves of the brain and correlates it. And so it'll have almost this, I don't want to say geometric, but you know, a physical nature there. I tend to think that yes, ideas in the brain can have their own consciousness because it is as if they do. It is as if they act. You know, what your memory of your deceased grandmother says to you is not a subject of your will. It wants to say the kind of thing she would say, and that's what it'll do. And if she was a sweetie, then it all's well. So I tend to think in the calculations I make about ideas and memories and thoughts of other people and models that we have that seem to have their own will, that it is that they seem to, and so it's as if they do, and so I do calculations that way. But do they really think that way? Like, do they have a consciousness where possibly they can make contact with you? Yeah, I think more or less, yeah. And I think that's just the way that it is. I think it probably goes down to very small things have some sort of a consciousness of their own. And then our consciousness has a way of going and sort of absorbing it and making that conscious, you know, joining with that other affect in the mind and making it conscious. And if you think about it in terms of the wiring that would be necessary to do this, I think it's kind of likely that really, if you get right down to it, the whole split personality idea of having other consciousnesses in your mind will break down to this timeshare idea where there's one functioning conscious, and so that's maybe a good news for us if we want to not have a war among our consciousness. There is a unifying principle underlying it, so it can be brought to not be constantly in battle with itself. Though, as I've said, I do think there are two semi-consciousnesses, one in each half of the brain, one of which cannot speak in verbal language. It can express itself artistically, and it can have the other half speak for it. But I do believe there's those, and that those tend to be at war in our culture. So, to record all that in my overtime.